You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning segment on the Breakfast Show. And now let's go straight to the first conversation for today. Talking about tech experts champions digital innovation for Africa's growth. We all know technology experts and innovation strategists are calling for stronger collaborations across Africa's tech ecosystem to unlock the continent's digital potential and position it as a global innovation hub. Speaking of the recent technology forum in Lagos, emphasis was on Africa's future growth depends on how effectively it embraces artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and youth-driven innovation. I noted that while the continent has made significant progress in fintech, health tech, and education technology, more investment is needed in infrastructure, mentorship, and even policy reform. A leading voice in digital transformation across emerging markets has spent years advising startups and policymakers on integrating technology into development frameworks. Now, this focuses on building inclusive digital ecosystems, empowering startups, and even promoting artificial intelligence literacy among young innovators. And he urged the governments and private investors to prioritize capacity building and local innovation hubs, noting that many African startups struggle with access to funding, data infrastructure, and even market reach. According to experts, bridging the digital skills gap among African youth is vital to ensuring sustainable progress. And he believes that mentorship, early exposure to innovation, culture, and partnerships with global tech institutions can accelerate talent development across the continent. And joining us this course tech today is Harrison Obamoye. He is a data scientist and a technology leader. Good morning, Harrison.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Yeah, so good to have you on the short notice. We really appreciate you. Now, very quickly, talking about technology and innovation, how would you describe the current state of Africa's tech ecosystem and what key trends are shaping its growth?
Okay, thank you. So I think the current Africa tech ecosystem is at a point where it has reached its maturing and consolidation phase. So in the past, we used to have a stage where we just have a conversation on how do we go around developing the tech ecosystem. But currently, we've seen that a lot have happened in the space so far. And the major drivers of this growth across Africa are not far-fetched. If you ask me, I would say one major driver is the fintech maturity within the continent. So we've gone beyond just normal payment to having a sophisticated technology or applications that have solved vital payment issues around finances, credit score, and even some infrastructure. So I think the fintech industry has been a major driver to the growth and maturity of the African tech ecosystem. And currently, we've seen the rise of energy tech, and we also see the rise of AI, and data innovations. And so these are some of the areas that have actually impacted hugely to the growth of the Africa ecosystem. So personally, I feel with this continuous growth in these areas, we see that Africa has now become one of the watchdogs when it comes to the tech ecosystem, not just in the continent, but around the globe. So yeah, that has been, in my opinion, the major drivers of this growth in recent times.
How do you, what do you see as the biggest barrier, to scaling homegrown tech innovations across African markets?
Okay, yeah, so that's a very important question. Yeah, even though the African ecosystem is growing, but we've seen so many barriers that have actually hindered the scalability. One of those barriers is fragmentation in the markets, regulations, So we talk about Africa as a continent. The major challenge that founders are currently facing is having to scale products in one region and replicating such sources in a different region. So in hindrance there is the fragmentation. There are currently different rules, different data laws, different market regulations, different entry and exit point across the African continent. For example, a startup in Lagos, even if successful, when it goes to Cape Town, for example, or when it goes to Nairobi, it becomes difficult to really scale in those economies because there are fragmentations in the market. And the other major barriers is capital funding. And as you will have it, it has been a major, challenge. Even though recently, in the last 2 years, there have been a global slowdown in capital investment in terms of venture capital, equity financing in this sector, but it has also hugely impact on entrepreneurs and even startups to really scale across different regions of Africa. And we've seen that there have not really been enough participation from the government. Rather, they have been like a gatekeeper, a watchdog, rather than participating fully in trying to make sure that there are, flexibility in how you do cross-border payment and cross-border growth. So personally, I feel these have been a major barriers to scalability across the continent.
All right. You just, gave us an insight on scalability. Now, in your experience, what role does collaboration between tech hubs, universities, and even investors play in building successful startups?
Uh, So yeah, I mean, it's a very important role that they play. Um, so if they work in isolation, for example, there will be an hindrance to innovation. So when we talk about universities, tech hub and investors, I feel they need to collaborate more in order to bring about innovation in the continent. So you will think about it this way. The universities, they generate the ideas and the talents, right, at the level. And those talents are supposed to go into the market, like the tech hubs, to convert the ideas into prototypes and businesses. And investors, in the other hand, are to, invest in this talent, in these businesses. So if this is done practically where it leads to a lot of benefits. For example, you can create employment pipelines. But what we have in Africa today is that this collaboration is really weak. You don't have a lot of universities directly collaborating with tech hubs and investors. Most of the investors we see are mostly short-term investors. But however, I think in recent years, last year and 2 years, we'll begin to see some university taking drastic steps to collaborating with innovators and tech hubs through internships and through, hackathons and some other, some other things they've recently developed. So personally, I feel there needs to be more collaboration between the three pipelines, and those collaborations can be of huge benefit to the African continent in terms of scalability, in terms of innovation, in terms of even the region's economic growth and employability. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
All right, then. Okay, I'm talking about artificial intelligence and even digital transformation. How can artificial intelligence be responsibly deployed to actually solve Africa's pressing challenges in health, education, and even agriculture?
Okay, so that's a very important question. So how can AI be deployed responsibly? So in my opinion, I think before you can deploy AI, you need to first understand what are the challenges you're trying to solve. So the Africa region is so unique that the models that works in the different region will not necessarily work in the region. So first step to deploying a responsible AI solution is to first understand what are the challenges. As we stand today, we have basically challenges around accessibility, around trust, and around employability. So when you want to deploy AI, it should be around the people So an AI that is trusted by the people will go far in terms of scaling, in terms of the solutions it try to solve. So I think personally for entrepreneurs or for people to, deploy AI in responsibly in the African continent, it has to be around the people. And when you do that around the people, you need to be able to show credibility. You need to be able to put in place some structures like data protections laws so that when it is rolled out to the market, the people receive it with trust and confidence that the AI are able to solve such solutions as it were. Yeah.
Away from that question, I want to bring your attention to the fact that Nigerians now have to pay more for Chat GPT as OpenAI implements 7.5% VAT. What do you make of this, Harrison?
Um, so I think personally it's not a new development. So before the implementation of the 7.5 VAT, when you check cross-border payment in terms of what Africans pay to use ChatGPT before now, what other regions pay, you see that it has been even more of a benefit within the Africa region. So with the introduction of the 7.5% VAT, I don't think there is going to be a huge negative impact in terms of how the product is used. But if you kind of look what the product is doing and the solutions ChatGPT is offering to the market, you see that the benefit and the return on I will call it investment because of course you are paying to use the product is going to far outweigh the cost. So personally, I feel that wouldn't create any tension or negative impact in that region. Me, for example, I use the product sometimes in research or in some what I do, but when I try to rate the two together, I feel it's just something that that will happen anyway because it's a VAT that we go to the government at the end of the day. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, then. So then, what ethical considerations should African developers and companies prioritize as they build AI-driven solutions?
Yeah, just as I've earlier mentioned, we talk about ethical considerations. And first of all, before you even deploy AI solutions, you need to first consider what is the AI going to solve? Because the question shouldn't be what AI is going to do, rather what AI should do. You understand? So when you approach it in the way of what AI should do, so you begin to talk about data protections as a core ethical consideration. So you need to be able to secure the data of individuals. The people need to have that trust and confidence of what kind of data you are using, and specifically it should be a local, because we are talking about deploying solutions for the African continent because of the African problem. So for you to solve an African problem, you need to use African data, and those data need to be trusted, And secondly, there need to be fairness and unbiasedness in terms of how you deploy these solutions. For example, when we talk about the sectors, healthcare, education, and agriculture. So what AI does in those areas, for example, AI providing solutions for diagnostics, early detection of diseases, where those data are coming from should be locally sourced, and there should be fairness in terms of how AI tends to make such decisions. And lastly, I would say that one very important ethical area we should look at is there have to be humans in the loop in terms of the decision pipeline of AI solutions. You don't just isolate what AI is doing. For example, when we talk about education, deploying AI to be a tool for learning, bridging the gap between students and teachers. In that process, you shouldn't just isolate the solution, but there should be an individual in that loop trying to make sure that what the AI is actually teaching or doing is aligning with the curriculum or what the student should be learning. In that way, we are able to, ethically deploy these solutions to solve pressing issues in those sectors. Thank you.
All right, then the last question I have for you, right, is what advice would you give to young innovators that are trying to actually build scalable solutions in low resource environments?
Thank you. That's a very important question. So my advice would be, when you're starting to develop or start or innovate an idea, you don't have the full details there. So I think one of the major problem in the Africa region is that you want to know A to Z before going into a venture. But you will ask every successful entrepreneur across the globe that when they were starting, they just have this idea and they know that this is going to strive and you start working with it. So for Africa to be the region we aspire it to be, we need to have founders, we need to have innovators that have the courage to start even with the limited resources they have. That's one important area I think we are currently lagging because people say, oh, I don't have enough capital to start a business. I don't have enough resources to start. But the conversations have shifted because there are a whole lot of ways to start even when you don't have the full resources, but you just need to start anyways because that solution could be what Africa will need to go to the next level, the level we want it to be, to provide those solutions in health, to provide the solutions in education, to provide a solution in agriculture. These are major conversations that we need to have, and I just want to encourage everyone that have an idea on which of the area, whether in fintech, in payment, in energy tech, you should just start, collaborate, seek for mentorship, go for, events that will allow you to, say the ideas and become and achieve that goal that you want to achieve. Thank you.
All right then. So now that was the last question, but the very last as a data scientist, as you're looking ahead, what is your vision for Africa's digital economy in the next decade?
So I envision an Africa where we don't need to be, because currently we have this notion that we are consumers of technology. But I think that conversation is changing recently because we have a whole lot of brilliant talent. The recent research that came out stated that over 26,000 tech skills have been added to the African continent. So I'm envisioning a situation where we have the major solution hub in the continent. So we create value-added products across the globe, not just in one region, but in different regions of the country of the continent. We have 54 countries, and that 54 countries, just very few of them are actually actively participating in the tech ecosystem. So envisioning a situation where all areas of Africa have come to the point where we are driving technology innovations. We are driving, this innovation across all sectors, in the region. So that's one of my most anticipated vision, that to see Africa where everybody will be proud of at the end of the day. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Harrison Obama. He is a data scientist and he is also a technology leader. I want to thank you so much for joining us on Business Morning under short notice all the way from the United Kingdom. Thank you for your time and for the impact this morning. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a great day. And moving on in business morning, we will be right back after this break to take our second conversation on entrepreneurial skills. Please stay with us and don't go anywhere. It's still the Business Day breakfast show. Stay with us.